Hey, hey! Welcome to PiG Daily, guys. Today we're going to be talking about a little sort of meta update, highlight, and I guess also a build order as well. We're going to be looking at Byul's Anti-Helion Roach-Ravager pressure. This is something which has come about recently because Hellions are back in the meta. Players have stopped doing the double medevac drop in Zerg vs Terran, and the big thing Zergs have been facing is basically Hellions dropping in their main base, Hellions running in their third, a Liberator sieging up the natural, another Widowmine drop hitting their third, half the Hellions morphing into Hellbats, and about 4 billion opportunities to lose a lot of drones. There's been a lot of Terrans doing this. There's also been Terrans going, let's do some Hellion pressure, and behind that I've got a really fast third command center, 2 engineering bays, and I'm just way ahead if you don't get over to my side of the map and do any damage. And because a lot of Zergs have been stuck in this very standard way of playing Mutiling Bane, just defending with Queens, a unit which is very slow off creep, so can't be aggressive, Zergs haven't really been putting on any counter pressure, and Terrans have either been getting away with just putting on crazy multi-prong aggression while being reasonably greedy behind it, or putting on a good amount of aggression while being very greedy behind it. And Terrans have really been skipping out on those powerful regular units. They've been skipping out on siege tanks early on for safety, banshees early on for safety a lot of the time now in favor of the the medevacs and liberators. And also Stim is very delayed with any sort of Hellion opening. So Byul has come out in Shoutcraft Kings and he's done some cool stuff. So I'm going to show you guys immediately exactly a couple of the highlights that we saw in Shoutcraft Kings. And we'll just see a few of these little attacks. So basically what he's been doing is a nice Roach-Ravager pressure. Of course, guys, shout out to Total Biscuit, Blizzard, Ting, and In Control as well for casting this along with TB. But for especially TB for hosting and organizing Shoutcraft Kings. Just going to show you guys a tiny snippet here. So basically what he does is a standard 3-base build. You can see he's got 1-1 behind it, a lair. He's building a lot of drones, 54 drones, but he always wants to hit right here at about 5 minutes 30 with just 7 Roaches and Ravagers. Now, a lot of the time he'll morph more of those Roaches into Ravagers. This time he only had 1 or 2. He comes up, sees there's plenty of defense, and he just walks home in this version. And yet is way ahead because he's forced all those bunkers, he forced a siege tank, and he really messed up Keen's build. He also played Byul later on in Shoutcraft Kings. By the way, if you guys are getting spoiled, you've had like 2 weeks to watch these matches. I only just finished watching them myself yesterday, and I was like, this is a really cool reaction he's doing. But here we see it against Byul. Cross-map Whirlwind, once again, hits at 5 minutes 30. He's got upgrades and all that stuff. This time his upgrades are slightly later. He's about to start them up. But you can see here, even though there's multiple bunkers, there's Hellions, a Liberator, he's forcing a siege tank out, and he's just going to kill all the buildings in the wall. And once again behind this, it's just double upgrades. Sorry, you guys, it's a bit blocked by the text. Double upgrades, lots and lots of drones, and he just kind of shuts down Byul's, the Terran's ability to kind of pressure, because the Terran's so afraid of dying. And this is not that big a commitment. It's 7 Roaches, a couple of Ravagers. It's not that big. It is not massive at all. So guys, I'm going to run you through the build order first of all, and then we are going to talk about Byul last night in GSL, how it went there against Alive, as well as a few other things. So, in-game scene. Hopefully that registers. It doesn't just stay black screen. Yeah, sometimes that just takes a few seconds the first time of the day when I actually switch that scene on. That's all right. All right, guys, I'm going to bring up my build order here. I'm just going to walk you through it. Now, this is not going to be absolutely perfect execution, but this is the way that he did the build order in Shoutcraft. Both games against Byul and against Keen, he did it this exact same way. So I'm going to walk you guys through that. And keep in mind, you can do it differently. You can go hatch gas pool. That's what he ended up doing yesterday in GSL against Alive. He didn't use the same openings. And he still ended up going for pretty much the same point. It's something which Gemini, a guy who does a lot of Protoss builds, really cool guy in the community, he calls it a convergence point. I think that's a really good way to describe exactly what we're talking about. It's a point where no matter how you open and what happens, you always end up hitting a point in the game where you go for the same stuff. And that's just like, that's your pattern. That's just what you go for. So guys, it's going to be 18 gas, 17 pool, and then 17 hatch. So, yeah, so we want to send this, you can just send this drone down straight away if you want, but otherwise we'll just send this guy down now. So we're just going to walk you through up to that 5 minute 30 moment. 3 guys on gas straight away. Make sure you build this hatch right on 17 because you want that to finish as quickly as possible. Go back to droning afterwards. And like I said, I haven't actually practiced this build that much. I was just studying it last night, so there might be 1 or 2 mistakes. But for the most part, we should be good. So drone up to 18 supply. And that means when the spawning pool finishes, you want to have 200 minerals. So that's going to allow me to build a queen and a single pair of zerglings. And this is your standard pool first opening in that your zergling wants to dodge the Reaper path. So notice I'm sending it on a little bit of an odd path across the map. And let's build an Overlord. And let's get zergling speed as well. Now you want to leave on gas for the most part. Oh, I could have built 1 more drone. So you want to leave on gas, 3 guys on gas, until your natural expansion finishes. Your queen here, the advantage of going pool first is you can deflect a Reaper without having to build extra zerglings. And you have an opportunity for these zerglings to cancel your opponent's natural.
Queen's ready.
So it really is, there's a couple of great advantages to going pool first in Zerg vs Terran. Just kind of
your forces are taking damage.
Whoops, there we go. Very hard for the Terran player to see exactly what's going on. So from here, you're just droning up. You do build a 3rd queen immediately. Your queen will hang around in the main for a bit, see if there's a Reaper coming, and then it can move down to the natural as this queen's getting close to finish. From here, you do want to keep droning up. Drones, drones, drones. Notice that natural's finished, so let's pull 2 guys off gas, send them down to that natural. And you're going to go for a 3rd base on 36 supply.
Queen. Those hatcheries won't inject themselves.
So let's imagine there's a Reaper harassing me or something. You'd try to come in here and cancel that command center. Well, not cancel it, but kill the SCB that's building it and slow it down. 36 supply. Let's go and take that hatchery.
Queen's ready. Find a hatchery to inject.
Now with this build, you're only going 3 queens. So no more than 3 queens. Don't get carried away. So 36
Evolution
hatch.
Complete.
Keep droning. And after that hatch, about 3 minutes 30, you want to put back on gas. So I'm going to do that as these drones are kind of popping out. And about 3:35, so just after that, you do want to be going for a Roach Warren. So let's put down a Roach Warren. Just throw that down there. And then you want to be steadily adding on 2 gas. Now this is great because it gives you the setup to defend against a Helion Cyclone opening as well. So no matter what, as long as you're up against a Helion opening, this is a great way to play. And you've only got 3 queens. Now, if there's a Helions already running around, you might want to say build a few Zerglings. So let's build 8 Zerglings for a little bit of safety. Kind of simulate a real game scenario where I'm not playing against an easy AI. Putting dudes on gas. And of course, you want to build some extra Overlords to make sure...
Whoa, you can't build your horrific biomass here.
Make sure you're going to have enough supply free. So the Zerglings are important to kind of stop those Helion run-bys, like I said. And you just want to go 7 roaches now. Just 7. Behind this, let's go double Evo chamber and just go back to drones.
Don't just stand there, shoot back!
Pretty much the moment that you start that those roaches up, you want to be doing that. And just keep spreading your creep. Remember, these roaches are going to push back Helions. It's going to buy you a lot of map control. It's very important for you to make use of that. And you want to morph anywhere between 2 and 5 Ravagers. And those roaches want to go straight across the map. And you really want to force a big response out from your opponent. You want to start a lair soon after those Evo Chambers start. So it's Evo Chambers, lair, and then you start your 1-1 upgrades. So sometimes there'll be a little bit of a gap on those upgrades. We can go, yeah. There we go, 1-1 upgrade start. This queen can go there. You can add 2 queens behind this, so you've got a little bit more robust creep spread. And it's 5 minutes 30. You've got a bunch of roaches and ravagers at your opponent's doorstep. You're droning like a madman behind it. You're going back into standard Lingbane Muta behind this. But you force out a lot. Often you kill the wall. Sometimes you'll just straight up kill your opponent. And that's it. That's the build order. So let's hop out of there. That was actually pretty good execution. I thought I'd screw that up a lot more than I did. So that's the build order used in Shoutcraft. I really like that build order. That 5-minute 30 timing, it's so good, and it's such a small commitment. A few Ravagers and Roaches, but because there's no stim, there's no like hyper mobile units that Terran can use to chase them down. So you've got the range advantage with that corrosive bile. Even if Terran's got like 15, 20 Marines out for some reason, they're not going to have stim, and they're kind of like waddling towards your Ravagers, and your Ravagers just throwing down corrosive bile, doing really well. About half the games, Byul likes to open Overlord speed because he's not sure what his opponent's going to do. He likes to mix that in because he knows Terrans sometimes surprise you with crazy build orders. And he still somehow always hits pretty much the same timing. He just has a few less drones behind it because he's obviously invested in that early Overlord speed. So I think this is just such a great pressure. He did so well with it throughout his games. And it goes into Mutiling Bane very well. So if your opponent builds things like tanks, maybe even builds multiple tanks, which is what we saw in many of the games, because they were expecting maybe a Roach-Ravager follow-up, and then like, oh crap, it's Mutiling Bane. And tanks, while they can be decent if you're pushing in certain positions against Mutiling Bane, you'd much rather have more bio initially and then more Widow Mines, which have obviously a much bigger single shot, which is more effective against the fast-moving Lingbane army. Whereas siege tanks, with their superior range and their consistent damage, are better in other situations. I did forget to turn off all of my alerts, so sorry for the sound effects popping up in the background there. I'll turn that off right now. This is a shorter daily, so I do just want to go over a few of the other things while we talk about exactly why this works so well. So I do want to let's do a little recap of yesterday's GSL. Byul was playing, he played against Alive in the losers match, I believe, because he lost to, was it the losers match or the final match? I think it was the losers match. Because he lost to stats in the first match. Yeah. So, oh shit, I'm fucking spoilering. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I know there's like people watching who are really mad right now. But anyway, spoilers are about to happen, guys. Even more spoilers. So turn it off. Skip for a few minutes if you don't want to watch this. So this is Byul doing a very similar opening against Alive, but he had a few more Zerglings from the early game because there was a Hellion drop before that. And because of this, he kind of delayed his third gas. He's only dropping it now. But then he sees this commitment, and this is where Byul just goes, wait a second, you're actually throwing away all your Hellions. Now, normally with the 7 Roach-Ravager pressure, you only commit so much. Where with just the 7 Roaches and Ravagers, because they've got Hellions, they'll pull their Hellions behind the wall, and your Lings, if they try to flood in, they will just get eradicated by the Hellion flames. But in this scenario, he sees Alive overcommit, throw away all of these Hellions, and he's like, wait, you don't have the anti-Zergling anymore. Look at that production tab. He's just like, I'm going to make all my Roaches into Ravagers. I'm going to mass Zerglings behind this on top of the Zerglings I've already built. He still doesn't go all in. He still starts droning, but he really commits a lot more. He's like, I already have some extra Zerglings, and you've thrown away most of your Hellions. Look at this. 4 Hellions do come back, but they're kind of trapped outside the base. Most of them are going down. And he's like, yeah, all right, I'll add another 15 Zerglings. I'll make a lot of Ravagers, and I'm just going to bust through it. And you look at what Alive's got at home, and he's just got nothing. And this is the perfect example of what I was talking about at the start, where people are like, yeah, I'm going to attack you with Hellions, and I'm going to build a 3rd command center. I'm going to like hit you in 2 or 3 bases with this Liberator. And if Zerg just sits back, even if they defend really well, Terran's like, yeah, I'm in a fine spot. And because Terrans have been getting away with this stuff for so long, it's something where I think Byul's like, I've had enough. Screw you. Get the shit out of my game. Stop doing this. So he just got himself a nice free win there. This is game number 3 of their set as well. And you can see here, he committed to his pressure a little bit harder. He went Overlord speed again this game, so you can see his drone count's not very impressive as he's hitting there, but he's made 10 Roaches this time around, and he's made a full 7 Ravagers, and he's going to just wipe out the engineering base. He's forced 4 bunkers and multiple siege tanks out, and behind this, he is just droning like a madman. So if we skip a few minutes from here, even if you just kill the wall off, which is what Byul did against Bjorn, he always ends up so far ahead. If he gets at least the wall off down, like every game he's done this that I've seen, he has ended up in such a good position. So let's skip a few minutes. Look at the supply count. He's up 50 supply in the mid game of ZvT. He's got creep all over the place. Even though you don't have a lot of queens, because you're the one pressuring the Terran, just your couple of early creep tumors can spread, incessantly. Spreading your creep behind your aggression just gives you such a kickstart on that. And then he just kind of controls the map. And I mean, this game ends up kind of back and forth, and I think a bit closer than it should be because Byul doesn't, make a few mistakes. But overall, he just always gets such a nice lead, gets so much momentum. He often has a very nice 2-2 Mutiling Bane timing because the Terran player either can't start their upgrades against that early pressure or loses the engineering bays. You can see in the production tab that upgrade differential. 2-2 finishing as like +2 is halfway done and the +2 armor is just starting. And this is just so indicative of exactly what we've seen with this meta adjustment. So generally speaking, to summarize today's topic, guys, I walked you through one build order. Keep in mind in those GSL games, he went hatch gas pool, but he always converged at the same time by going about 3 minute 35 Roach Warren. Did I write a supply count for that? About 47 supply. He goes for that Roach Warren, gets 2 more gases. So he goes up to 3 gases total. And then he basically just pumps out about 7 roaches, occasionally 10, makes a few ravages, and just forces so much out of the Terran, really messes up these otherwise overly streamlined builds that Terran players are doing with the Hellions. I think it's working very well so far. What is it potentially weak against? I definitely think someone who goes Banshees after their Hellions is going to be a little bit happier against this because a single Banshee is just going to be like, nope, go home. I can keep doing whatever I intended to do at home. However, Banshee is not in the meta right now, which is why a lot of players at the top of Korea, at least from what I've seen, I'm sure there's a lot of players still building Banshees, just going for the Liberator, going for the Hellion drop, coming in from one side, coming in from the other, dropping Hellbats in the main while running Hellions into the third and all this sort of shit. So yeah, it's been pretty sick. What's really cool as well is this is a minimal commitment, guys. This is not all in. This is nowhere near all in. And yet it basically forces the Terran to piss off and go home. Forces them to just run into their base, try to lock everything down, way overreact. Sometimes you get to kill lots of things. Remember, there was that first game I showed you guys at the very start of today's show where he killed nothing. He goes up, sees like 4 bunkers, and he's like, nope. And he just walks away. And he was still up in that game, and he still just overwhelmed Keen in the mid game because he's droning so hard behind it. His creep just spreads out like crazy. All those bunkers are a wasted investment, and it all works out. So guys, hopefully you enjoyed today's daily. A little bit of a quicker one. Thank you very much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with another daily. We'll be going over the TVT solid opening, 2 Reaper Cyclone into Raven for Viking and 2 tank air superiority sort of push. Very, very solid way to play TVT. But for now, shout out your questions on Twitter, Team Liquid, wherever else. Check the YouTube comments down below. There's going to be a link to the spawning tool build order of this opening, as well as the full build order notes. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to hug a watermelon, kick a garden gnome in the nuts, and of course, punch a penguin in the cankle. I'll catch you guys next time. Goodbye and good night.